Hey YouTube, this is Ozarks brother Jerry for this week's Parsha, which is Re'eh, and that's R-E'-E-H, and that encompasses Deuteronomy 11:26 through 16:17. An overview of the Parsha. And it's talking to Israel when they go into Canaan, the promised land. And this is what they're to do or not do there. They're not to worship other elves. They are only to sacrifice where Yahweh puts his name. And that's important because where Yahweh's name is, that's where his glory is. So, whereas I understand before, they're sacrificing in just wherever. It talks about how to handle people who say they're prophets. It goes over, again, the laws of clean eating and then tithing. And then it talks about the 3 set-apart festivals, which the men of Israel are to appear before Elohim throughout the year. And that's Pesach or Passover, Feast of Weeks, which the Christians call Pentecost, and Sukkot, or Feast of Tabernacles. In I picked out 3 things that kind of stood out to me to talk about. Other gods or other elves. Deuteronomy 11:28. And to curse if you will not obey the commandments of Yahweh your Elohim, but turn aside out of the way which I command you this day, to go after other elves which ye have not known. Of course, he's talking about the people that they're supplanting in the land there, not to worship their gods. Well, but the commandment's not to worship other gods. And I think a lot of people have a stereotype vision of these ignorant people sitting in a cave, worshiping this little wooden doll. But I think if I make it to the New Jerusalem, I'll find out these people are just as smart as I am, if not much more so. So, well, what is a god, or what is an idol? Well, it's anything that's more important than Elohim. If you typically attend a synagogue on the Sabbath, and there's a NASCAR race on that day, and you stay home for the NASCAR race, well, who is your El? Well, NASCAR is. And another twist on that is, I've thought about, a lot of people, I've heard a number of people say, well, I've just done too much sin, Yahweh can't save me. Well, for God so loved the world that he sent his only begotten son. So he says he can save anybody, and he can. And if you think he can't, well, you're making yourself an idol. You're thinking that you're smarter than the Creator. And that's just not the case. So enough said on that. Another thing that we read all the time in Scripture is to obey the commandments, statutes, and judgments. And I go to Deuteronomy 12:1. These are the statutes and judgments which you shall observe to do in the land which Yahweh, Elohim of thy fathers, giveth thee to possess it, all the days that you live upon the earth. So there, it didn't include commandments there, but it's other places in this parsha, and a lot of times it's all 3 together. Well, those 3 things are different. What do they mean? Well, I got this off of 119's blog from March 13th, 2015. I got it a few years ago. Commandment is a high-level order or charge to keep or observe. Like thou shalt not steal, or whatever. A statute is drilling down, and it decrees or requirements describing how to love and obedience. And for an example, I have Exodus 27:21. 27:21. Well, I'll read 20 also. And thou shalt command the children of Israel that they bring the pure oil olive beaten for the light, to cause the lamp to burn always, in the tabernacle of the congregation without the veil, which is before the testimony of Aaron and his sons, shall order it from evening to morning before Yahweh. It shall be a statute forever unto their generations on the behalf of the children of Israel. So here's a specific thing. Yahweh's talking about the menorah, and how it's to be treated. So he's drilling down from a top level commandment down to a statute. And the other one is a judgment. A judgment tells us how to handle a situation that arises. And as an example, I have Exodus 21:31. Whether he have gored a son or have gored a daughter, according to this judgment shall it be done unto him. So this is talking about an ox that's gored and that's gored someone. So that's that's pretty getting down to the minutia, but that's a judgment. So that would be how we'd handle that particular situation. So I just thought that was edifying to me. So, and finally, what stuck out to me was how to handle folks who say they're prophets. And I'll go to Deuteronomy 13:1-5. If there arise among you a prophet or a dreamer of dreams, and giveth thee a sign or a wonder, and the sign or the wonder come to pass, whereof he spake unto thee, saying, Let us go after other elves which thou hast not known, and let us serve them. Thou shalt not hearken unto the words of that prophet or that dreamer of dreams, for Yahweh your Elohim proveth you, to know whether ye love Yahweh your Elohim with all your heart and with all your soul. You shall walk after Yahweh your Elohim, and fear him, and keep his commandments, and obey his voice, and ye shall serve him, and cleave unto him. And that prophet or that dreamer of dreams shall be put to death, because he hath spoken to turn you away from Yahweh your Elohim, which brought you out of the land of Egypt, and redeemed you out of the house of bondage, to thrust thee out of the way, which Yahweh thy Elohim commanded thee to walk in, so thou shalt put the evil away from the midst of thee. So, I don't know, one of my favorite news shows is Greg Hunter on Watchdog USA, and that's a great YouTube channel. And he gets this guy on there who wrote the Trump prophecies, and some of this stuff, he was an early picker of Trump to be president, as I was too, but I don't claim to be a prophet. But the constant theme there is don't fear. Satan wants you to fear. Fear is a bad thing, and the Father's going to turn this country around. So, but that's not my Elohim. My Elohim says to fear him. Fear the one that can take the life and the afterlife, not just the one who can take, this temporal life. So my Elohim is in Deuteronomy 30, and here's what he says. I'll just read Deuteronomy 30 and 1 and 2, I believe. And it shall come to pass, when all these things are come upon thee, the blessing and the curse which I have set before thee, and thou shalt call them to mind among all the nations whither Yahweh thy Elohim hath driven thee, and shalt return unto Yahweh thy Elohim, and shalt obey his voice according to all that I command thee this day, thou and thy children, with all thine heart and with all thy soul. So my Elohim wants me to be repentant, and he wants me to be obedient, and he wants me to fear him. So that, I don't know, but I don't think that's the Elohim that this guy talks about. So that's how we judge. That's how we judge these folks who say they're prophets. Does their prophecy, do the terms of their prophecy, line up with Scripture? So have a good week and study your Parsha.